Welcome to Passion for Payroll, the podcast. I'm Max,
And I'm Khizar.
and we're here for the passionate payroll pros who build trust. You deliver quietly, consistently, and usually without applause. We are here for you.
No fluff, no buzzwords, always fun. Just what works and what doesn't, and what you can do about it on a Monday morning.
Exactly. If you're passionate about payroll, then this is your podcast.
Let's get into it.
Okay. Khizar, this is the first episode that we match in color. Eh? We
Yeah.
are both
We
orange.
are the orange brothers that I call it. Or what is it called? Brothers in orange.
We are now the brothers in orange. Exactly.
Maybe we need to change the title, but yeah, for now I think we keep it passion for payroll.
And there seems to be, someone told me that there's a whole art and science behind choosing a color. And Simon Sinek, that you most
Yeah,
likely
yeah.
know, the
I
one,
love that guy.
yeah,
Yeah. You
whatever.
know he's my favorite.
Exactly. There's a real deliberate choice behind it. And I did do some research when I was thinking about, my own company, which I started November 2024. What color should I choose? And then it was obvious it should be orange.
Of course. But I thought you are replicating the Dutch football team, which is also very close to your heart. Yeah, you are an Ajax fan, so that's more red, but the national team, right? So that's one of my favorites as well. So I would keep it like that.
No, it's true. Right? We're called the Oranges, but our royal family is called the Oranges, so orange would be everywhere here. And
Yeah,
actually, on the day of this recording, it's just the start of the holiday season for the kids. So the schools are out for 2 weeks, and we celebrate the king's birthday on the 27th of April, and then that's a public holiday. The whole country turns orange. But then
yeah,
on the last day of school, most of the schools they organize plays and games and everything, and then
very
all the
nice.
kids dress up in orange. So my son had orange hair, full orange
Nice.
outfit, the Dutch flag on his cheeks. So I had a lot of employees today. Fortunately, not on my payroll, but I did have a lot of employees. But what also turned orange was Barcelona,
Yes.
because we
So
met
Barcelona,
Passion for Payroll Live in
yeah, yeah.
Barcelona. Well, 2 weeks ago, 1 week, no, 1 week ago. Last week.
Yeah, it's almost going to be 2 weeks, but it was one of the best. So first you have Barcelona, then you have, in fact, you have Max, then Barcelona, and then you have the nice food and the lovely, lovely people that you get to meet. And obviously then there's payroll as well. So I think to summarize, it was one of the best things that, someone can invest into. So thanks to you, Max, honestly
Right.
for the hospitality, for bringing people together, for having me. And obviously, I had the luxury to have a nice earlier dinner with you.
We had
And
dinner.
the same day, both of us landed, I think. And so that was the start of the fun couple of days. But I think truly it was one of the nicest events that you can go to in a professional setting. And you saw one of the comments from one of the colleagues and the participants there at the end of the day,
Yeah.
because it was not just the event itself, the program during the day, but then Max had an after party as well planned for us.
Did I? Yes. Oh, look, it almost sounds like a sales pitch now, but I'm so grateful just to be in the opportunity to bring payroll people together who never really connect, right? Because they either don't have the budget to go to big conferences like Payroll Congress, the one in the UK, or others that are just have great quality content but are just more expensive, or they just don't have the personality to network and connect easily with others. So if you then create a safe space for payroll people to get together, then at least you don't need to explain what you are doing, right? Because it's so difficult to explain as a payroll person to a non-payroll person what you're doing.
Exactly.
And if that kind of hurdle, that obstacle isn't there, then you see people connect. And then, I present in the way I do with a bit of passion and a bit of energy. And then you see people connecting. That's for me our passion for payroll life. We had providers in there. We had people with relatively
HR
small payrolls.
people, we had HR people as well, so it was not just limited to the payroll people. So I really like the diversity,
Yeah,
different areas. So I think, and for me personally, I think it's one of the key thing is connecting with people. So, and one thing is that found out that payroll people are not that behind the desk anymore. They have the same kind of worries, concerns, but they are at the end of the day humans, people, right? like any of us in any function. They have the same, almost the same kind of backgrounds that we come from. They share the same passion, and they are very enthusiastic to learn from each other. So that was the, I think, one of the key elements, that we had some senior colleagues, right?
Yes.
In there, with a lot of not just experience but years behind their resumes, and a lot of diversity in what they did. But at the end of the day, they were all there to learn from you, obviously, but also connect with each other. And one of the setups was, I am a big fan of breakout sessions, and live breakout sessions, I think, is
Better
one
than
thing that,
virtual.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think virtual is the necessity, because we live in the world where everyone is not available at the same time in the same location. But when you can do those breakouts in a live environment in person, I think that's also helps break that ice, or whatever is it's called.
Yeah, and
So I think,
maybe for the people, Khazar, who weren't there,
yeah, yeah,
the way that it's set up, it's a long day, so you do need a bit of passion for payroll to
yeah,
attend the passion for payroll live event. So we start at about 9, and the structure kind of follows the book, the first book, the Global Payroll Managers
yeah,
Playbook, with global payroll strategy. Then I discuss, key trends, industry reports, and the theory in my book. And then we break out into 3 to 4 different groups,
yeah,
diverse groups. And then I give you a little handout with thought provoking questions that you then need to discuss. You have about 20 minutes to do that. Then you come back to the group. Then you present your findings to the entire group so everyone benefits from it. And we do that then for governance. We do that for the operating model. And then the last one, delivery, is a bit more loose from my perspective. See how much time we have left. And then, you see people connecting, and the diversity of the group, what you mentioned, I think is key. Because
yeah,
we had people from 8 different countries with 10 to 11 different
yeah,
nationalities
yeah,
in one group. And the companies they came from, one was from the Magnum ice cream company, one
yeah.
from Mango, Just Eat Takeaway. Next thing, Vagron, Tetra Pak yourself, the Social Hub, where we hosted it. Big shout out to the Social Hub who made it. The hospitality was awesome. But we also had people from Grant Thornton, provider, Nesto, global provider. Then we had Ralph Lauren. So diverse, managers, specialists, heads of global payroll,
Yeah,
all connecting together from operational, strategic levels. And I almost cried, Khazar, when one of the participants came to me and said, Max, I really wasn't looking forward to this event. He said, because I was expecting this type of boring
yeah,
payroll event where someone would lecture me on what to do, and then you get a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, and then I would go home again. She said, but
yeah.
this has blown my mind.
Yeah, hold that thought, because I need to give a moment of recognition to you, because just for the listeners and everyone, this was an entire event sponsored by Max himself. So it's not a marketing gig or something that I'm doing on his behalf, but you can imagine if someone, even so, this is the, I would say, the state of how people perceive training and these kind of events. Even though it was free of cost, for example, I had to travel on my own, but the event itself, and this might be coming from someone who's in Barcelona, so they had to just show up on that event, where food, lunch, dinner, and after party and everything was on Max. And yet, if people have that perception that, oh, it's going to be a bit, just a normal training event, and we saw that reflection at the end of the day and in the end of the evening, where that person kept on saying in front of everyone that, it is one thing that I was asked to come to this event, but now I think I want to be in these kind of events. And when is the next event in
Yeah,
Barcelona? When is the next event in the next best city close to me? So I think that's something that I would like to make a point, that
yeah.
it's not just about how you organize it and everything, but then how it was structured, how it was engaging. So engagement is important in these events, right? Again, and it's not something that we can force on someone.
It kind
It's
of
Yeah,
grows right within the
yeah,
group, and you see, when we start, people, okay, I'll sit next to someone I
yeah,
know,
yes,
but just create a safe environment for people to connect without indeed a commercial angle. And of course, I sit there with my branding and all of that. But it was just very grateful that everyone came and was sharing, and then the after party on the rooftop. of the social hub with too much food, which I will make note of because it was a bit of a food waste. And then, with some drinks and then some more drinks and people connecting on a personal level as well. I think we made lifetime connections there. It's a group of just 18 people, but getting 18 people together
Yeah. Yeah.
from people who've been doing payroll for 30 years. Some have been doing it for 3 years, but they connected and they learned together. The other
Exactly.
thing that happened, Khazar, was the release of my second book. I will now get it here. You have it as well.
You mean about this thing?
So it's yeah, exactly on the date, the 1 year anniversary of the first book, the Global Payroll Managers Playbook. I released my second book called The Resilient Professional, which is a completely different book because this is about how to deal with being a payroll professional, being under constant pressure while life also demands a lot of you. And I kind of summarize it as how to be focused, unbothered, and unstoppable. And I open up my life and my life story, basically, and my soul,
Exactly. Exactly.
guided by one of my other passions, which is Stoic philosophy. Now, for those listening, this is not a university lecture on what Stoic philosophy is, but I've hand selected 52 quotes. Actually, when I was on the plane to Sydney, Australia, for the Association of Payroll Specialists conference in October last year, while others binge watch movies, I had a 14-hour flight with a layover. And I brought Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, and I've hand selected the 52 quotes on the plane to Sydney, and I started writing the book on the plane back from Sydney. And
We
now
discussed this, and I think this is again one of the things that you just don't need to watch movies or sleep it off. You can invest your time in, and then you end up with a book.
it's choices. It's choices. And the response has been really well. I've released it on Amazon, but you can order a signed copy from myself. I've been signing books all day long, so I have cramps in my finger and my handwriting is like a doctor. And I've also recorded it as an audiobook. So
Yes, in
it's,
your own voice.
yes,
Yeah.
narrated by myself, which, by the way, terrible. I'd rather have a rejecting a payroll 20 times than recording another audiobook. Like you're reading a page and then you're making a mistake, and yes, you can edit it, but if you make another mistake, you need to do it again. So
Wow.
I think it's about 6 hours of recording, and it took me possibly 60 hours to
Wow.
record. But hey, now it's there. It's available Spotify, Audible, Storytel, and all kinds of other platforms. So yeah, I'm just really happy to hand out the first editions to the people who were there. And of course, Khazar, you were kind enough to give me a testimonial because you've proofread it before it was released.
I'm always lucky because I get the first hand.
Yes,
I won't say review, but first-hand taste of all whatever you publish, right? So I
yes,
have that kind of luxury, and that's the benefit of having a friendship with Max. And again, I'm really helpful. And one of the things that I honestly mean it, right? And it's simplistic, but timely, honest, and confidence building. So for me, it is very, very, very. So what I mentioned to you and our audiences as well before, the first book that you had, the Global Payroll Managers Playbook, is like the Bible of our profession, right? This one is how to be that person,
yes.
how to survive as a payroll person, how to be the payroll person that everyone wants to be or envision. So I think this is important, and again, it's a must read for our payroll profession, not just payroll professionals, but any professional in the world. So it's something. And as we speak, I think Max, I saw today's rating as of today. I don't know when we will publish this episode, but you're in the top 16, I think, or 15 on Amazon trending. So that's something that I'm really really proud of, my
Well,
friend.
I'm not sensitive to all kinds of ratings, but how that goes is so I publish this via Amazon self-publishing. So you write everything, and then you need to go through the horrendous Amazon formatting process. Shout out to Mika who designed the cover, by the way. Then you have the cover, you upload it, and it's all kind of formatted, and then it's done. Then you get proof copies, you redo it, and all of that.
Awesome.
And then once it's out there, Amazon takes a very big portion. For everyone who's checking out on Amazon, you also check out for Jeff Bezos, but the other part that goes goes to me, and I, for the first book, it goes to local sponsorship of charitable
Yes.
donations. The second one goes to keeping my events free.
Awesome.
And then those ratings. So you
Yeah.
choose the categories, and then you have these ratings. So in the HR rating, then today
Yeah.
I'm number 16.
Awesome.
Tomorrow, Khazar, I could be number 1016 because there's another book that had a couple of.
Tomorrow, it doesn't matter tomorrow. We talk about today. Who knows what happens tomorrow? Maybe it's number one. Then what do you say? So I'm working. I'm gunning for it to come to number whatever. But again, it's something that it's a must read, and it's not that. And again, you have simplified it into 52 practical lessons, so you can take it once a week as well. So it's something that you take it on the go, and I think one of the best. And I really like the animation. So thanks to Mika, right,
Yeah.
for all the lovely stuff. And you see shades of Max there.
You know what's also so I had someone reach out to me on LinkedIn, and
Uh-huh.
I cannot name him, but he will do a post, and
Uh-huh.
he said, and I will quote this for a second. He said, "I've started listening, so the audiobook, to your book, The Resilient Professional, and I'm currently on week 10. I plan to write a longer post later about why this book is so valuable for both young professionals and experienced professionals, but I didn't want to wait before thanking you." He said,
Wow.
"Thank you for being so vulnerable, honest, and generous in sharing your life's experiences." He said,
Yeah.
"As I listen, I keep feeling that this kind of wisdom is especially important in today's agentic AI world, where more execution is supported by AI, but humanity and soft skills will matter even more in the long run. You've expressed that beautifully." Then he said, "The sections about your corporate layoff, yes, that I do share, how you cope with that experience, and how you handle difficult co-worker relationships have impacted me the most so far."
Awesome. I think that's a wonderful, let's say, feedback that you got, and this is what we were talking, right?
Makes
At
it
the
all
end.
worthwhile, right? I've helped someone who lives, I think he lives in India. He travels between India and
Mm.
the US. Look, I've helped one person,
Yeah,
cope with the stress of payroll. So that makes me happy. But you were also saying, which is interesting, it's more than just for payroll people. So the original title was The Resilient Payroll Professional. And then I was talking to a friend, and
yeah,
I kind of explained the concept. And he said, "But this is broader,
exactly.
the payroll experience." Yes. However, the examples that are in there are, of course, very payroll specific. So that's why I've started calling it the Resilient Professional. The
Professional, yeah.
subtitle: 52 Reflections for Payroll and the Rest of.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, yeah, and that's because obviously you belong to the payroll world. Your majority of experience, I know, but you have been in working with PwC in the past as well. But the whole idea is that this can be extended to any profession, right? So this
I
is
think so.
why, yeah, yeah. So this is why I think it's something that you should read at least once. So awesome.
See, if Khazar even says you need to read it at least once, you all need to do this. Hey, but everyone who's listening is probably wondering, I thought these guys would always discuss a poll and not
Yeah.
just events and books. So shall we maybe go to our poll?
Yeah, I think we should, but the reason we shared all of this is because we wanted to tell what is a professional supposed to invest in. They are supposed to invest in reading, investing in networking, meeting new people, and having a bit of fun, right? So that was the idea of these few minutes at the start of this
Oh, you've
this
taken
one.
my feedback very seriously, Khazar. This was not a personal attack on you. I know, I understand. And also, it's good for people who weren't there to give something back. No. Okay. So, having said that, the poll that we wanted to discuss is also related to training. So,
Exactly.
I asked the people on my network this question: do you provide training to your global payroll team on local payroll legislation? Now, there
Hmm.
were, again, as always, four different voting options. The
Hmm.
first one is, of course, exclamation mark. Now, that was 51%, the highest vote, 51%. I think that's terribly low. Okay. But the second most voted option was no, dot, 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 which was 30%. Third ranked option was incidentally, 17%. And then others, please comment, was 2%. I don't know what the comment was, but it's too marginal to discuss. So that means that 49% doesn't get training on local payroll legislation. What do you think?
First thing, I would focus on the 51
Okay.
first. That's the positive. So you know
Yes.
me, right? I would always focus on that part.
You do the 51 with 49%.
Yeah, yeah. So even going back to that one, It also depends, Max. So, for example, if that 50% represents the critical countries where every 6 months or every year the legislation is changing,
Okay.
like countries like France, Germany, Czech Republic, I can mention the countries in my scope. But then, if I'm hopeful that the other 49, I'm taking a bit of your chunk as well. If it's coming from countries, let's say like where I'm belonging, Pakistan, UAE, Saudi, all those areas where the local legislation doesn't change, then I'm happy that they will say, okay,
Hey, that's
fine.
your angle.
That could be one of the things, but again, focusing on the 51, I think it's a must. For at least in my experience, that is your bread and butter as a payroll person, right? That's your
Yeah.
that's not the background, but that's your base. We can focus on accuracy, we can focus on timeliness and all of these things, but compliance actually protects the company from everything. So I think it's for a payroll person investing, and the companies that are having those specialists or us as payroll people should invest in regular training, especially in environments like, for example, France, which is the obviously the most
France.
complicated.
Yes.
But I can share a few examples before you take over, Max. I've been lucky to work in organizations again. I use the word luck a lot,
You're a very
but
lucky person, huh?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That I spent. I've seen the companies that I've worked spend a lot of I would say money and effort as well. Spend a lot of effort trying to upskill their people, not just on different trainings throughout the organization, but local legislation. Even in my current organization, we spend thousands of euros
Really?
uplifting
So
our
you
people.
train your people on local legislation? That's
Yes. I mean, training can be either through internal programs that we can do, or ask our vendors to come in, or have an external provider or program. So, for example, me as a line manager or responsible for my area, I always encourage, even if there are budget constraints, hopefully not. But in the past as well, we used to invest, even myself, we used to find programs if someone, so we had the luxury, past, present, to do that. So that's why I call myself lucky. But like if I take your poll, for example, if the
yeah.
49% are present in an environment where the legislation changes drastically and they're not getting trained, then that's an eye opener for the organizations. And then you can tell the
Yeah.
rest, Max, why it's a problem.
I have a few assumptions. I think the assumption is that all payroll professionals,
Mm,
if they were offered the option, would want to get training on
yes.
payroll legislation. Right? If we adopt that assumption, all payroll
Yeah.
professionals want training in local
Yeah.
legislation. Then something is blocking the 49% to get that training.
Hmm.
And that's what I wanted to kind of explore. Would that then be, is it budget? Is it a manager, regardless of budget, just
Hmm.
doesn't think that you need to be trained in local payroll legislation? If you outsource to a global provider, right, why would you then
Yeah.
need to be upskilled as an internal payroll team member? What do you think would be the blocker for those
I
people to
mean,
get that training?
I can take the last blocker because I have my view on this as a manager, and why I can put myself in those shoes. And as a manager, I simply say to people, I don't want to rely on even the vendor. Maybe they are the best specialized one, the big four, or the biggest best consultancy. But at the end of the day, they are still humans, right? They will have. We are not looking for
Oh, yeah,
lawyers,
yeah,
and yeah. So what we need to do is we need to be equipped this much that we can ask the right questions as payroll specialists. And
yeah, yeah,
for that, we need the basics, right? Or at least know our stuff. When we say know our stuff, we are not asking our people to write pages of citation and give advisory, right? The point is that if I know that, okay, I want to do, let's say, again, and we can relate to the gross up topic. If I have to do a gross up or give a benefit to my employees based out of a change in policy, and I want to release the impact on the employee,
yeah,
provide, let's say, a gross up on an element, will it have a tax on tax impact? What does my law say? What will be the repercussions? So those are the, let's say, the questions that I should be able to equip myself, and what the local legislation says. Then there will be all technicalities, then the experts come in. But in order to ask those questions,
yeah.
challenge stuff even to your vendor, and I've seen that, I'm very proudly saying this, that some of my team members, immediate team members, are so much equipped and so much technically gifted in these local legislations that they have in fact challenged vendors and the consultants, and then gotten, their point of views, let's say, accepted more than they got. So that's a proud moment. So that's why I say that, I've been lucky to work with teams and the companies who invest in these local trainings and legislation for my people.
You know what this makes me? I was just googling it. The hierarchy of competence. So it's you're unconsciously incompetent, or you're consciously incompetent, or you're consciously competent, or the highest level, you're unconsciously competent. So the top one is you don't even know that you
Yeah,
always have it right. You have the right intuition. The
yeah,
lowest one is unconsciously incompetent. Your intuition is wrong. You don't even know that you're wrong. And I've actually used this hierarchy of competence in explaining how much do you need to know, so to your point, if you outsource payroll and if you manage, 10, 15 countries, you can't know everything of all those countries.
of course.
There might be the rare exception out there in the world, and I applaud you, well done. But for the common folks like us, that's undoable. So I think we need to at least be conscious, incompetent. So
Yeah,
we need to know what we don't know to ask the right questions.
exactly.
And indeed, also to your angle, what I, for instance, did at a company that I cannot name, well, I will name Crocs, and I noticed we couldn't answer basic employee questions about
Yeah.
payslips of employees, me included, because I was exposed to countries I just didn't know how to do a gross to net calculation.
Mm,
So
mm,
what I did, and at the time, shout out to SD Works who provided tailored training to us. We developed a program that was fairly light. Say
yeah,
we want all the starter requirements. What do you need to be onboarded to a payroll?
yeah,
Then what is the gross to net route, a normal gross to net route, and how do you manually recalculate this? Then you have the levers. What are the lever requirements? Documents, you need a specific date, blah, blah, blah. And then we had what are the filings that are being done to which bodies? What are the due dates? The basic stuff.
yeah, yeah.
We had that training. We were able to answer employee questions with 80 to 90% quicker
Yeah.
because we knew the basics. And we weren't reliant on a payroll provider. So it also reduced cost. So maybe that's an angle because usually it's about budget, and I think we're close to wrapping up, but it's also a budget question. So, Khazar, in your experience, how can the people who are listening who want this training but don't get the budget, what's the best angle for them to submit their business case?
I mean, simple. Any training and anything, this is an investment. So if you use the word cost and all of those things in your business
Yeah,
case, you have to think this as an investment for, and in your business case, like for how we do it. How may so one of the simplest thing is that, okay, let's say you have a vendor. The vendor is obviously going to charge you if you're going to keep on going back to them for a ticket or question basic questions. Then you can simply calculate the man hours, the associate the number of hourly rates that they will apply, and that's a simple one, right? Then there is going to be a cost that you internally take, which is sometimes hidden, that okay, the back and forth between your team and the vendor. So
yeah,
one is the vendor cost that you can calculate easily through the contract. The other one is the time that your team is, I won't say wasting, technically not having the right equipment. So one thing is that you can calculate the cost in those manners, and then you can do a cost benefit analysis of, okay, if we invest 5,000 euros or $5,000 for 5 people learning to do Dutch payroll, what would be the long term impact of that in my organization? I'm training 5 people who will be backups of each other. If someone goes, I don't have to do the hiring cost of
absolutely.
hiring as a payroll specialist. And so those are the kind of mechanism that you can build your business case around. But again, any training is an investment if it's done in the
Yeah,
right manner.
not a
Like you
cost, but an investment.
exactly, it's an investment. I mean, at the end of the day, that person is also elevating. So from a personal level as well. And
Yeah,
again, one thing we say about trainings, and it's not just your line manager or your let's say company. You can invest on your own, like your event,
just
your
pay
event.
yourself. Yeah,
It's pay yourself, not even pay yourself. There are so many. Now we have so much things available online and all of these things. But again, if you want to invest in you, if you want to look at that angle, then there is always an easy business case. This is an investment. Calculate the long-term benefit of it. calculate the actual costs that you can, and then weigh the two options, right? And obviously calculate the risk of having a non-compliant payroll, or risk of, issues like financial risk that is associated with the wrong payroll, or making a wrong.
That's a fear, kind of the fear
Exactly,
element.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Imagine you have a CBA, you're not able to make the right kind of calculation based on that. And what would be the impact on your company, the employees losing trust, works council. So there are so many angles. I think we would need to discuss more in detail about this in the
So
future.
maybe
Yeah.
to summarize it, it's like every payroll professional needs the local training on local
Yes.
legislation, whether you do in-house or outsourced, but the intensity of it differs if you have it in-house or outsourced. Because if you want in-house, you probably want to be a registered payroll
Yes.
professional in that country. Whether if you outsource, you need to know at least enough to be dangerous and ask the right questions.
Exactly. And again, for the in-house one, it depends on how frequently the legislation changes and the impact of this legislation on every element of your structure, right? So I can give a last example before we wrap it up. For example, in Pakistan, the legislation was not changing too much. So we had in-house programs which was done by our chartered accountant, one of the owners, and my mentor as well. So we used to do every quarterly for the people who used to come in that company, and he was basically designing his own program with the help of the changes in the legislation or tax rules, social security. So those are the kind of things. So it depends that if the environment is as complicated as countries like France, Germany, and all these places, then you need to invest with someone who's up to date, and that requires an external outsourced vendor. So yeah.
Okay, I think this brings us to a close then, Khazar.
Thank you, my orange friend.
Great. Then we need to say the official words. That's a wrap on Passion for Payroll, the podcast.
And if you're passionate about payroll, follow the show, connect with me and Max on LinkedIn for more stories, polls, and just real talk.
All right. See you next time. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.